Okay, this video is about how Stratocasters typically are not designed well for trem units. In order for tremolo action to return and tune very well, you either need like a nut clamp, or the strings need to come out of the nut in a straight angle. See how this goes down to the low E? With these type of locking tuners, you can't wrap the string any higher on the tuner. So this angle is an angle you have to keep. And then I raise this with a little tiny little spacer to relieve some of the angle on these two strings. And then these two are actually higher than those two, so these aren't too bad. But then these two really angle down heavily. And what happens then is that it pushes the string down harder into the nut slot. So when you use the trem action, the strings want to go this way because you're loosening them. They're running up here toward the tighter section. And then the strings, when you let go of the trem, the strings need to glide back to the exact same tension that they were at before you use the trem. So in order for that to happen, these angles can't be heavy, because then the string doesn't return to the exact tension. There's not an insane amount of tension on these strings. If there were, this might not be an issue, because you'd get pulling and pulling, more pulling in both directions. But anyway, never mind that. So, but how do you tune these? Hang on, I dropped the trem arm. Okay. How do you tune them? Well, first of all, you have to make sure that you're tight around the post. That this wrap, however many wraps you have, this is a locking tuner, and this person doesn't want a lot of wraps, so it's there are just a few wraps, so it doesn't take long to pull it down. You can lift the string up and lift the string and go like this, and it pulls the string down, and that tightens it around the post. Then, let's see, so when I tune it, see how it's, even the C chord is nice. It also has to do with the way I intonate the saddles. I don't just check at the 12th fret. The strings tend to play flatter as you go up the neck, and but people tend to play and push when they're up here. And the strings are a lot looser up here than they are down here. They're tighter. If you ever bend notes, you'll know. If you try to bend these way down here, they're very harder to push than up here. Up here, doesn't take much muscle to push these. So when people play up here, they go like this, and that pulls the string sharper. Okay, so keeping that in mind. When you get closer to the fret, the strings play sharper. When you come up here, they tend to play flatter. You push them, they go sharper. So if you can follow that, what you would do then is you would intonate to these frets. Usually I do G, C, E, A, C, and G, D, and G, and I'll do the C. And if I intonate it here, it sounds great. But then I also have to check here to make sure it's not too flat. If it's very flat, I'm going to have to shorten the saddle to make this play a little better, and then without throwing these way off. And I always get a happy medium, and it always works out well. So but when you use a trem, And this stops. It doesn't float. It stops. If it floats, it's really hard to work with, but this one doesn't float, so I'm not going to talk about that. So what you do is you tune it 2 cents flat, and you pull and you bend and you pull and you bend and you tune it 2 cents flat. Because if it's not tightened all the way on the post, it will go flat after you bend. So you just want to make sure that you have no more tightening around the tuners, and the strings don't stretch. Once the metal gets to a certain tension, it does not stretch. It stays at that tension. People call it, oh, I'm stretching my strings. No, you're not. You're tightening it around the post. You can stretch nylon strings, but you don't stretch metal strings. Anyway, so you tune it 2 cents flat. You go like that. You check it. If it went up, you tune down below the note and come back up. You never tune in the down direction because of the way the gears are designed. You can have the teeth of the gears be in the slack here in dead spots, and then it'll move. Always tune in the up direction so the gear teeth are pushing. So again, if you play it and it goes higher, come down and go up 2 cents flat. 2 cents flat. Keep playing it until it stays 2 cents flat. Then take the trem and go. See what it looks like. Tune those notes. They're going to go sharp. And that's because of these angles. Because you're loosening the string and it's running up there and it's not returning well. If these angles were perfect, if these angles to the tuner were perfect and the nut was wicked slippery, and I put nut grease in there. I don't use pencil dust, or it's kind of like it's a hemp oil with wax. With wax. Hemp oil and beeswax. This is the one I'm using. I don't know if they make it anymore. But you did a tiny drop in the nut slot. And also, I neglected to say that if the nut slot is not cut properly, you will never get the guitar to tune properly. That's another chapter. So you have to do this and then tune it 1 cent flat. 1 cent flat. You really won't hear the difference between 1 cent and in tune. But if you put it in tune and it's going to fluctuate, it's going to go sharp. You don't want to go sharp. Sounds like crap. Stay 1 cent flat. Now the only thing is when you start bending, let's see. It's a little out, right? But let's say we've strummed a whole bunch. Now we come back. It's pretty good. Then do this. I got no problem with that. So bending. If you just give it a little pop or just wait a couple seconds, it'll all adjust and get into position and play in tune. I hope you could follow that. I didn't want this to be 20 minutes, so I spoke quickly, okay? Good luck.